Yeah, it says I'm recording. Awesome. Well, I'm going to pull up my screen here. How's everybody doing? I think everybody's doing well here. Who isn't doing well around this time of the year? Okay, so today is the LPG. We're calling this the LPG Workflow Masterclass. Um, migration and workflow within Pebble. There's going to be a lot of questions I think you guys are going to have, and we're going to try to keep this as orderly as possible. So let me explain here. Let me just go back to my oh boy, where's my other screen? Okay, cool. All right, so the promise here today is to make sure you have clarity on moving your data and how the basic workflow is like inside of Pebble. Because you guys come from Investment Dominator, it is quite a different platform. And so on our last session, we did talk a lot about that, how Pebble is not what you would think a one-to-one to Investment Dominator. Does my status go here? Or we don't have a place for a status. We don't have a place for certain things. So we want to make sure you understand how that adjustment works. So we'll be kind of doing actual walkthroughs. We'll go through and get things in together, and I'll stop and we'll answer questions as well. Okay. Okay, so some of the expectation here today, engagement is key. Any related questions to your account, signing up, billing questions. If you have any of those questions, just find Andrea, just click Andrea or click Tracy or Diana, chat with them privately, and then you can actually head to the bottom corner where there's tables in this room, and you can head there and you can talk, and we won't hear you guys. So it's got this sort of weird spatial audio where you can sort of hide in the corner with somebody else and work through those things. So anything account related, if you need that sorted, get that sorted out ASAP here, okay? Let's save any feature requests, right, guys? Any feature requests outside of this call. I don't want to take up anybody's time talking about feature requests and what we can build. You can email that to us, hello@pebblerei.com. You can join us on our update roundups every month and comment on YouTube. Kevin and I keep an eye on that. But yeah, we're always listening. So let's kind of keep feature requests out of this call. I know that sometimes gets really popular. Other than that, I think those are the few sort of expectations I have from you guys. Okay, and bring any. Oh, right. Sorry. Last thing, questions. If you have questions, and I didn't stop to ask for questions, throw in the chat. Kevin and I will keep an eye on it, and if it's related to what we're talking about, we'll stop and we'll talk about that. If it isn't, we'll save it just for a little bit later in the chat to answer that. So to get to your chat, all you need to do, you go chat. And then you go to here. Let me type it in here. Pebble stage. We can chat here, guys. Hope you guys saw that. Okay, so we can chat in that room or in that chat channel there. Okay, cool. Let's get started here. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about data import, exporting your data from Investment Dominator. So from my understanding, it shouldn't be too tricky nowadays to get your data out of Investment Dominator. It used to be back in the day you have to request from support and get it out, but you should be able to get it out. It will spit it out as a CSV file for you. It will contain everything about those properties, including the statuses, your property ID, all that good stuff. Okay. Now, when you're exporting, it will put all your counties together. And one thing about Pebble is when we bring in our properties, we actually separate things by county. Now, one thing you can do is you could sort the list and separate it into separate files based on the county. You could upload that to ChatGPT and just literally tell it that, hey, look at the county column. And for every county, please create a separate file and spit that all out to me. ChatGPT should be able to do that for you in a few seconds. Otherwise, you could sort it and save each one and just, sort it by the counties, delete the rest, save that one, undo it, delete the other ones, and save that one. So I'd suggest to separate the counties. Now, if you don't want to do that, in order to bring those in and for us to recognize those counties, then you need an extra column with the FIPS code. The FIPS code is the Federal Identification, blah, 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 something code of the counties. Okay. So I just want to make that very clear. Counties do matter to us. Why does it matter to us? Well, when we're creating campaigns in the future, we want to be able to segment things by campaigns and see how well things can actually perform per campaign. Okay. All right. So now that that's talked about, you can get your list. The only thing is the county. Okay. Um, we're going to go through creating property fields actually before we even bring in any properties. Why is that? Well, you guys have special information. Things like, again, your property ID, your statuses. You want that information to be still searchable as you're making that transition. You will never use, property IDs created by Investment Dominator ever again, but you want that historic information there, maybe some past statuses or whatnot. I'm going to show you where you can bring that information into, and then we're going to go ahead and import those properties. Does that sound good to you guys? Yeah? Big smiles? Yes? Awesome. Okay. I'm going to share my other screen. I'm going to try to toggle back and forth here. Present. Oh, present. Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is create those property fields. So property fields, these are specific data points about a property. And it looks like I've got a question with a hands up. I'm trying to navigate there. So like I said, if you have a question, just throw it in the chat if I'm talking until I come back to asking for questions, okay? Okay, cool. And you can chat in the Pebble stage here. So I think that's you, Krisha, right? Okay, cool. So property fields. If we come to our properties here, we can pull up any property to create a property field. So when I'm looking at my property list here, I'm seeing all my properties in my account. Now I only have 397. You guys are probably going to have considerable more than that. All right. So I'm going to pull up this property here. And so this is what a property record looks like inside of Pebble. You've got some of the historic information, like your campaigns. You can track all of that here. APN, legal description. You got a map here, so on and so forth. The property fields are these little text fields here. Now, when you open your account, you have default text property fields. You can create and delete and create more sections as well. So you can see comparables as a section, pricing as a section, marketing details as a section. I'm going to create one as if I'm importing things from Investment Dominator. And guys, if you can't keep up, don't worry. This is getting recorded, so you guys can rewatch this, okay? So what I'm going to do first is go to any of these fields here. I can go to manage fields or just hit one of the gear icons, or sorry, the cog icon here. So I'll go hit manage fields here. And you can see, I can see the sections here. I've got due diligence, comparable, pricing, marketing details. If I click into it, I'll actually see the real property fields in there. Now, what I'm going to do, and what I suggest you guys to do coming from ID, is hit add section and literally call this ID import or ID fields if you want, okay, or ID data, whatever you want to call it. And then it's going to ask me to start creating the fields for there. So I'm going to get one of you guys to speak up here. Who do we have here? Jeff. Jeff, what is a field that you typically want to bring over, or what would you want to bring over that might be living inside of Investment Dominator?
Probably the big thing would be like the status, so I know where
Okay.
the property's at in the process.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm going to bring that in. And so I'm just going to keep that as a single line text field. Okay. So I'm just going to hit save. The other one here, thanks very much. I'm going to bring in the property ID. I think that's a big one that you guys typically base a lot of your properties off of. And that to us is really just, a shortened thing like an APN or something like that. So a property ID. And is there anything else that is crucial? I feel there's one more sometimes, you guys. Jody, was there anything else? I talked to you before. Status, property ID. Was there anything else? No. Anybody else want to add anything here?
Owner ID. Owner ID is another one.
What's an owner ID? Can you explain that to us?
So owner ID is kind of like a contact.
Okay, but we're going to bring in the contact. So I don't know if that's going to actually. Is there
for us, for us, for example, we all our drop boxes are set up by owner ID, and then if an owner has more than one property, so then we'll have the owner ID folder, and then we'll have like 3 or 4 different property ID folders under that. So it's just,
Oh, so you're
you know,
using it
owner
as an
ID
way to.
identifies the person.
Okay, cool. Let's do that then. Owner ID. That's to reference things like Dropbox and whatnot. Okay, got you. Now you can always sort things here. I've created these as just simple short text fields here. I'm gonna actually bring the property. I'm gonna bring the property ID to the top because I think that typically is priority status, and let's do owner ID. Okay, so again, the first step you want to do in your account is create some of these fields so that Pebble can catch that data. If we don't have a field to catch it, you won't have a place to bring that into. So I'd suggest to go into your dummy properties that you when you open your account, go into the one of the properties and just create some of the fields that you want to catch. And maybe you want to open up your investment dominator sheet and have a look at those column headers to see what you want to bring over. Okay.
So
Cool.
Jesse, I don't think Investment Dominator can export status.
Okay. Can someone
I think
confirm that? I'm not sure.
I'm not seeing. Well, oh yeah, it is. Okay.
I think it should be on the CSV file. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the next step now, which is actually importing the properties. Okay. The first step is create those fields. So we import properties through the campaign screen here. This means your outbound marketing campaign. Okay. Every property that you've ever sort of reached out to or want to purchase from, you've done some kind of marketing, whether you mailed it, cold called it, mass texted, you still have done some campaigns. And that's why you're still going to bring it through here. Even though you're importing something, you've done marketing to those properties that sit in Investment Dominator. So they're still coming through this campaign screen here. Okay. So what we're going to do is hit add campaign. We're going to give this a name. As I mentioned, you may want to, you do want to segment your list by county. And if there's multiple counties, I talked about it early on, you can separate the list. You can ask ChatGPT to do that for you. You can create a column with a FIPS code. That's going to be up to you. Okay. I'm going to call this ID import. Let's just pretend here, right? Like, let's just give it a county. My favorite county here. All right. It is a direct mail campaign. If you choose phone, we don't require the address. We require the phone number though, but most of you guys are going to have the address. So let's just do it as direct mail. I'm going to hit save here. Then I'm going to choose the county here. So even when I am creating a new campaign in the future, this is the same exact steps. Okay. I'm going to look for my file. So I don't have an actual ID file here. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. I have a list from data tree. So I am looking for my list on my other windows here. So just give me a second. I should have been more prepared, but I do have it. There it is. Okay, I literally dragged the CSV file. So whatever that Investment Dominator gave you, that CSV file, do the same thing, right? Now, again, if you have multiple counties, just drag the CSV file. Make sure you have the FIPS code on there. Okay. Counties are really important to us, as I mentioned. Plus, there's always like confusion of counties. I think there's a county that appears many times, or a lot of counties that appear many times, the same name. So we want to be able to identify that county. And I'm going to hit upload list. All right, so in this next stage here, what has happened is that Pebble has detected some of these fields to match up to. And on the left here are those property fields, like the APN, owner name, acreage, legal description, so on and so forth. In fact, we can see all of our fields if we hit open these all, and we can bring in, on the right side, we would match the column that goes into that field. Pebble will do an auto detection of the key ones that it needs. Pebble will also remember your mapping. So once you mapped it once, Pebble will remember it. You don't have to do this again. Now, remember I created the the property field for a property ID. If I scroll to the bottom, I should be able to see it right here. Right? So if I want to bring in the property ID, I'm going to scroll down here and look for that. I can literally type in property ID, and it should be able to scroll me to that. I don't have it, right? This is not a list from Investment Dominator. This is a list from data tree. But you want to bring in the property ID. You want to bring in the status. You want to bring in the owner ID. Create those fields first so they show up here so that we can catch those. Yeah? Okay, good. Now, all I'm going to do at this point, now in future campaigns, if you have an offer price, you can select your offer price here, and that would also get brought in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit import list. It's going to do a live scan, look for any errors or missing information that it requires. So you can see here, I'm missing 2 rows, 1 row. I don't really care. Like this is from data tree. They just don't have it. I'm not going to bring it in. So at this point, I'm just going to view my campaign. All right. So if you were importing from Investment Dominator, this is as far as you need to go. Your properties have been brought in on one of the campaigns here. A campaign is just a shell or a container of properties that you're going to mail to. You could have another campaign with the same exact properties because now you're remailing them an increased offer of 20% or something like that. Okay. All your properties live under properties here now. You can see my number went up here. I can search by that property field ID. So I'd have to come into field, go select field, and actually turn on that field to search by it because there's so many fields you can search by. We allow you to toggle them on and off. So if I want to search by something, but like the property field, I just need to turn it on, and that field is now available for me to search here. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a pause.
Jesse, quick question. When you were when you added those new fields, did you need to pull on the pull down to assign that column to the data?
Yeah, exactly.
That, but is that just something we need to do?
So, like I said, it will auto detect a lot of the core or required columns. Anything that is different or we don't know that field, you're just going to have to manually select it. Okay. And we call that mapping the column to that property field. But once you've done it once, the next time you upload another list, Pebble will remember what you've mapped. So you don't need to do that every single time.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so it should be a simple couple minutes to bring in a list and run an entire mailing campaign. Okay, so we talked about exporting data from ID. We talked about creating property fields. We talked about importing and creating a campaign. Any questions up until this point here? And if you have questions, you can throw in the chat. Go ahead. Sorry, and I apologize. I can't see the names on here. So if you have your hand up, go ahead and ask.
I have a question. You kind of already said it, but I forget.
Yeah.
Because it was initially.
It's a lot, yeah.
What okay, when you're pulling from Investment Dominator, how am I then demarcating like by county? Like, or how am I not just pulling everything and being confused by all the data? How are you? Yeah,
so ID doesn't allow you to, I think, export by the county. So what you would do is spit it out as one CSV and use Excel to sort that column that says county by the county. Now, don't worry.
I just want to say you can export by county out of ID. So you can get a subset. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jennifer knows. Yeah.
Perfect. No, I was just saying earlier as well, if you have ChatGPT, you can just give it a list and say, hey, split it up into all these files based on the counties.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Jennifer said she's going to do a tutorial on that specifically at some point. So I'll wait for that. But the point is that you just want to make sure that you have things set up by county, of course, within here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you don't split the file, you can create a new column that says FIPS, which gives us the code for the county. And then we'll sort it for you. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. I'm going to read the chat here. Do we create a field for FIPS code if we go that way when importing? Do we create a field for FIPS code? Yeah. No, you don't need to.
No. Yep. The FIPS code is just what Pebble uses internally, so no need to create that as a custom field.
Yeah. Diana, you asked, how does it work when you're using cold calling or texting? I'm going to talk about that in a second. Jeff asked, so we bring every record we have mailed to. You'd bring every single record that you have ever done any marketing towards. Pebble should sit as the database for your properties because those leads come in. You want to be able to pull that up immediately. That's the whole point here. You're not wasting time manually typing things in. Walter, is it better to sort import by county or campaign? By county. You could do county and campaign if you want to be able to And the only reason why you would sort it by campaign is to see how well that campaign done. But all that information might be already missing anyway. So that's up to you. That's sort of a strategic call on your end. I don't know. I don't know how granular ID gets to track the performance of those campaigns. So that's going to be your call on that. Jody, go ahead. How do we differentiate company trust versus individual?
So I'm looking at the owner full name because sometimes we just don't have a full name. We have a company name, which is a totally different column.
Yeah. So if that's the case, make sure you move that column over to the full name. We need a column where it's all filled out because USPS requires it. Now, I know you're not mailing through us, but that is sort of the procedure that you kind of got to go through. So again, you're going to have to just move that over. You can ask ChatGPT to do it. Just have to explain it well to ChatGPT. Like, in this column, if there's any missing, please bring this column over from and fill out this column type of thing. So just got to be clear about it, and it should be able to do that for you.
Question.
Yeah.
So how does that work with regards to, say, a company that's named just one word, like land? Would you just import to the first name and then leave the last name blank? Or like if it's a multiple name company like Land USA, would USA be the last name?
So the only name, there's technically 3 name fields. There's full name, first name, and last name. The only one that's required is full name. So my suggestion is just fill out that full name as land or whatever, and then if it's multiple words,
thank you.
If you want that extra information to come in and you don't want to lose out on, I don't know, whatever, like create a custom field to catch that as well, so you can at least still search for it. Yeah. Okay.
Jesse.
Yes.
Sorry. So I have a question, and I have like 2 instances in which I have mixed counties, and one is like a skip trace status that I have right now. So should I do, let's say, the skip trace part first, then move it over? But that's it's a mix of counties and states, and then I do have other campaigns in which I targeted specific people regarding of the county where they are.
Kevin, did you catch that?
So you've skip traced some of the records with like phone number and email. Is that what you've done there?
Well, it's just when we use ID and let's say it's in campaign and there is something wrong with the address, it rejects a few of them, and then I have moved those to use a folder that says skip trace for later. So I have a bunch in there, but they are all mixed from different states, different countries. And I do have like a campaign that I do that is not county specific. It's a state, but it's a mix of counties from that state, and I do want it to mail it that way, not by county. So is that something? I don't know how mixed that will be on Pebble, since you said that things are kind of by county.
Well, as long as that status comes over, that if you have that status set in ID for skip trace or whatever, then that will come over into Pebble, and then you can filter those down, and presumably they'll live across different counties. But yeah, that should work just fine. You'll still be able to filter them by that skip trace status.
So your volume was going up and down. So from what I can understand, Diana, is bring that in, and in whatever sort of specific status, create a custom field for it. You can still filter and search by it. I think ultimately that's probably what I would do.
Okay.
If you have a specific question, yeah, feel free to record it for me, and we can sort of go through that. Sorry, is there another question here? Is that you, Andrea? No? Okay. You got your hands up. Okay, cool. I'm going to keep moving on here. We're going to talk about, I have it on my screen here on the slides, but I'm not going to toggle back here. Well, maybe it will quickly so you guys can see here. Okay, so let's go on here. Let's talk about, if you guys don't mind muting yourselves so I don't hear myself here. We talked about the basics of uploading a campaign and creating campaign. We're going to talk quickly about future campaigns and non-mail campaigns, right? If you want to cold call, if you want to text, what does that look like? So let's jump back in to Pebble, and there's not much more to what I just showed you, but I want to review that. So, okay. So again, to create a campaign, if you're mailing through us or not through us, you still want to create the campaign inside of here, whether you, again, mail through us or not. Although I wouldn't know why you wouldn't want to mail through us. Maybe you have sitting credits with another mail house. That's a legitimate reason here. Future campaigns, hit add campaign. There's no difference from what we just showed you. The only difference is, on the list you wouldn't have property ID, you wouldn't have owner ID or statuses anymore. So you're going to go through this transitional period of getting things over, and you can sort of disregard those fields in the future for your future properties. Keep in mind, Pebble is not a data service. We do not pull data for you. So you still have to get your data from a third-party data list service, right? Whether that's through data tree, list source, property radar, whatever, PropStream. And now that you're sort of not in ID, this might be a good opportunity for you guys to kind of explore different lists, because I think you guys are typically, only pulling from data tree. Okay, let's talk about non-mailing campaign, because somebody asked about this. Who was it? Diana, you asked about cold calling or texting. Okay, let's pretend we are doing a cold calling campaign. We're using a third-party service. They're going to do the cold calling for you. Before you actually do that, you're going to get your list. You're going to skip trace it. And then that's going to be all in one CSV file. You're going to bring that into Pebble first. You're literally going to go hit add campaign, cold calling campaign, okay? Ringless voicemail, text message, it doesn't matter. You're going to hit phone because this is a kind of a phone campaign. We'll hit save. Again, bring in the county and all that stuff. The only difference is we don't require the address for any phone campaign. We just require the phone number, okay? Now, once that has been created, I'm not going to actually go through and do that. You're not going to do anything with that list. You're not going to do anything with this campaign here. You're just going to leave it here. And then you're going to provide that list to your cold calling service. They're going to start making the cold calls for you. And we're going to talk about this next, which is leads and deals. Once those, once you get something from your cold calling service, they're typically going to, I don't know, email you, or they may want to fill out your web form to submit a lead. You're going to then catch that inside of the inbox here. Okay. So any kind of a campaign, you still want to create it here, because we can track on the response rates. We can also track on things like your return on ad spend, your ROI numbers as well. We will be able to capture, if you go back into campaigns here, and let's say we ran the cold calling campaign and it costed you, let's just say $1,000. You'll come to that campaign, add in you spent $1,000. That way we can start running the math for you guys to see how well this performed and what the return on ad spend was. Okay, you don't have to do this right away. You can do it whenever you get the number in and then add it to this campaign. Okay, so the order of things is always bring in your data into Pebble first, then get them to start the campaign. Because when those leads start coming in, you want to have the information living inside of Pebble already. Right? Sometimes people get it to the third-party service to do the marketing, and they're getting leads and like, oh shoot, like I haven't even brought in my properties now. Now you're fumbling to try to bring things in. So that's probably best practice, is to bring the properties in first. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go back to an old slide and just re-explain what, what? This is probably easier if I just did this. Oh, look at that. That worked. Let me see if I can pull this back up. I mean, this is from last time we talked about it. Do I have? Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about leads and deals right now. And then we'll go into the inbox and then talk about how to get things over to the deal board, and then follow up. So just as a reminder, just as a reminder, a review here, When we're getting our marketing out there to property owners, all that communication can come into your inbox here. Same with cold calling, right? Cold calling, they might email you. Well, they'll email it right into your inbox. They can do that. The inbox is a place for you to review all communication coming in, if it is a deal opportunity or not. A deal opportunity to us is somebody who has interest in working with you. On the acquisition side, that means they have interest in selling to you. On the disposition side, that means they have an interest in buying from you, right? If somebody said something really horrible, well, that is just nothing. You just want to close that out, and it does not get filtered into your deal board. We keep that out of the deal board, so your deal board only contains actual deal opportunities. Even though they might reject you after you give them an offer or whatever, that's totally fine. That was an opportunity though. Okay. Now, there may be an instance where you don't need it to go into the inbox because they are actually interested. And that can be like your cold calling service. They're already vetting those leads for you. Well, there is a way to get things from an external source right into your deal board and skipping this, skipping the inbox here. You can do that through Zapier. Okay, I'm not going to actually dive too deep into that today, but I've got a video showing you, for example, with launch control. If you're using launch control, I've got an extensive video on how to set that all up and get it. You basically want to go in launch control, hit send to CRM. It'll actually end up on your deal board. Okay. Does this flow make sense? Any questions about this flow specifically? Okay. So let's jump into setting up our inbox. I'll show you where that is inside of Pebble, and then I'll show you how things end up on that deal board. We're going to go and review inside of Pebble from here going to here. Yeah? All right. Coming back into Pebble. Our inboxes live under this menu called Inbox. Now, when you first open your account, I think you actually have to create your first inbox. I already have one. I have one here that says Seller Inbox. I have one that says Buyer Inbox. Today, we're just going to focus on the acquisition side of things. Okay. Your inbox looks sort of like an email, program where you're clicking in a message and you can sort of read it and you can kind of go through everything in here. Okay. You remember my diagram, Pebble can catch everything from emails to phones to web form submissions. To set those things up, and we'll go through this afterwards here. To set things up, you go into settings here. You can connect your own email address. So it's only one email address per inbox. You can add a phone number. You can have multiple phone numbers inside of that inbox. And you can actually create lead forms as well. Okay? Forms that you can embed on your website. Forms that you can give a link to somebody. So like Pat Live, you're using Pat Live, they can use that link to submit leads to you. Maybe you want to
Within a column, what are the choices for sorting?
Within a column, what are the choices for sorting? Which column?
I have 10 people call me and they're new leads, and I've got a buyer board, right? So I've added in deals for these people who are talking, and now I want to sort them in different ways. So I'm wondering what choices I have for sorting within the column.
You can manually drag and sort. Is that what you're talking about? Is there is it because you want sort of the more important leads at the top, or
might be I might want to do it by potential profit, or I might want to do it by most compelling task, or I mean I've tried to, or last time I communicated with them,
yeah,
where if I've communicated with them today versus somebody I communicated a week ago, I'd like the week ago to pop to the top.
Yeah.
So I make sure I reach them.
Yeah, we don't have a sorting functionality here for the deals other than manually dragging up and down however you'd like to sort of, yeah.
ID doesn't either, but I just was curious if there was something there.
Yeah.
We've talked about adding some of those too, so it's definitely on our radar to look into that.
Okay. I'm going to quickly touch upon, so we talked about deals versus properties. This is, I'm explaining, but when you're going to come across it, you might come into that confusion. Watch this part of the video again. Stages are probably the closest thing to statuses for you guys inside of ID. So keep that in mind. Although I don't want to say like, oh, this is a direct translation of it. It really isn't. So with the ID workflow, a lot of times you guys might be getting those deals in. You can come into here and start following up with them immediately. So let's say with Fred here, I need to send him in. Oh, well, let's go into one with a property here. This is, here we go. Here's one with a property. I may want to create an offer and mail it to him right from here. I can do that from here. Okay. So anything that enters this stage here, I'm sending out those offers immediately. I think a lot or some people in ID are basically taught, let's bash these up every Friday and send out all offers. I say, please scrap that idea and get those offers out as soon as possible. So you'll come in here, you'll send that offer by just coming into the deal. You can then go to the actual property record and hit create offer. Okay. So to create the offer, sorry, you want to create the document first before that. So you want to hit add document here, create the offer document, and then mail it out to them. So how that works is we can just go here, add document. We can choose an offer. Where's one? Like okay, let's just pretend this is an offer here, right? So we'll generate it. It automatically filled out the information here. You actually have an opportunity to tweak this as well. So if you want to type in your name or change something slightly because of this situation, you can do that. Hit save document. Okay. It's going to generate that for you. Oh, am I losing people? No. Okay, cool. And then we can preview it now. This document is actually generated for that property. And then I'm going to hit send new. I'm going to then choose an address associated with this or enter in a new address, choose the information in my return address, and then hit submit. That'll send out by today. Okay. Every piece does get tracked, so you can sort of have a look at what's going on with that. Now, once you've sent that and created an offer, you can also hit here, create an offer, mark it down as what that offer was, and then choose the document that it's associated. So then you'll always know when I look at this property here, I can see the historic information. I made an offer here on 12/12 for $1,879. Okay, he may not accept it, but I have marked that down, and it's here clearly for me to track. Yeah. Okay. Were you guys able to see my screen? Am I still here? You couldn't see my screen the whole time? Oh my gosh. Okay. I see here. We don't see the screen. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm like talking to nobody here. I wish somebody unmuted themselves.
Yeah, something. It seemed like something glitched.
We didn't have the function available to unmute. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
weird.
Yeah, the lower bar just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
We couldn't mute
Okay.
ourselves.
All right.
There you go.
Messed up. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, Kevin? Where did I last leave off at?
You might want to hit the record again, Jesse. I
Oh
think
my
it stopped
gosh.
recording.
It says recording on
No,
my
it's-
end.
Yeah, it still says recording there.
Jesse,
So-
about the time you said, "Am I losing people?" Was when you lost people.
Yeah.
So
I think.
So essentially, it was right after creating that that document. So essentially, what Jesse showed was creating the document for that property, and then going into the document and mailing that. So
yeah,
Jesse, I don't know if you just want to show sort of where that.
Can you just do that?
You have to create the document. You'll just hit add document here. You'll choose a template. You'll create it. You can hit mail on that, and that'll send the mail that offer out. And then I'd also mark it down as you did make an offer. So to mark something down here on the timeline, these tiles represent a timeline of all the major milestones for this property. I would go to this triple dot here and say create offer. Well, how much was that offer for? And which document is that offer? Hit save. That would now save and be timestamped here for you. And you can refer back to that at any time. So the procedure for that, again, is to generate the document, then create the actual timeline event here. So that you mark it.
I feel like I missed a lot more than that. I don't know if other people did, but I'm a little confused on where we are.
Okay.
Jesse, can I ask you about a question about that? It seems like when you create the document, it's going to, like if it's an offer, it's going to use the price that you need it. Don't you need to create the offer first to put the price in?
Don't you need to make the
so
Kevin, you want to take that one?
My workflow is that I go figure out what price I want to offer on a piece of property. I hit create offer, I put in the price, the date, and I leave the document blank. And then I generate the document because I'm using that price in the document.
Yeah, so it's essentially works the same way here. What we'll do, Jesse, do you just want to create that document and we can just show how we can type that in?
Yeah.
Click add a document. Let's choose do you have like an offer letter or sale, inbound sale and purchase contract? Let's just do one of those.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then here there's a price, right? By default, it's just going to select whatever your original offer price is, but we can just go in and change that. So if you've negotiated a price with the seller, you'll just type that in there. Let's just say it's $2,000 or something. Just type that in. Yep, and then you can change anything else in this document. So it's not in Pebble. We don't have like we don't have fixed documents. Like you can just go in and edit things as necessary. Sometimes you negotiate some random, like the buyer will clean up the trash on the property. You just want to type in a little thing there. So yeah, you can edit this document as necessary. Then you would save it. So now you have your document. You can mail that document here by clicking the send new mailing. Yep, and it will in your account it will set the return address and all of that. And then you can select who you're going to send that to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or you can select an existing address and then just hit submit. That would send tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Are you working on making it so we can email from here?
Yes. So the way that this would work is if you want to email that document, you can just download it as a PDF and email it as an attachment. We're going to make that a little bit more streamlined, but it's pretty easy just to go and download it and upload it as an attachment.
So once you generated the document, you can also create this. Kevin, would you recommend creating the event first or the event afterwards to mark that you sent an offer?
After. So create the document first, then create
exactly.
create the offer. Yeah.
So there's this whole thing of needing to create, just because we created a document doesn't, Pebble doesn't identify that that's an offer being sent out. You can create whatever document you want. I don't care if it's a neighbor letter, a deed, a contract, an offer letter, but you need to tell Pebble, hey, I actually made an offer by hitting create offer. That's why it's such a big button here. So then it actually marks it here, and we'll say when we hit create offer, well, what was that offer? Let's say it was a $2,000. And this was the offer letter that it was, so that we can in the future reference back to that we actually made an offer here. So there is a process to actually timestamping that on your timeline here.
Okay. So are you saying, like, if I sent out a first offer and now I'm sending out a second offer, I manually go into the actual document, edit it, and then like make a note of like what the new number was, and then like go into this, and then do I have that right?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
You can either do it that way, or if you're doing a campaign, like if it's like a lot of properties, you don't need to do it this way. It would just be a campaign that would be automatically generated here. But if you're going back and forth negotiating, yeah, you do want to make sure you have that, time stamped on here. Yeah. Other questions here. It sends the offers out by mail or email? By mail. Okay. All right.
But you can also generate that document and email it if you like to. It's just a PDF, so you can either mail it physically or email it.
Yeah.
Jody, did you have a question?
So I had a question about, so if we were going to automate a second offer, are we just telling it add $1,000, or like we have to, how does that second offer automation work, or is that coming in January?
Yes, the automation where we automatically send offers for you, say every 90 days or 60 days, or you want to set like a 3 offer automation, that's coming here with our automated follow-up feature, which is coming in the next year. So for now, you would just be creating those offers manually. Now, in Investment Dominator, do they do automatic offers?
No, but I can queue it with a custom status, so I let, if I have somebody assisting me, I can queue it into second offer ready. So then they know what, offers, and then I can actually put in the price. Like the second offer needs to be this price,
Got it. So you can do that same process here in Pebble. You can create that second stage. It says, offer
second offer ready.
Move that in. You can pre-create the document. Like you can go in and create all your offer documents, and then just have somebody go send them. Whenever you want to send those.
Okay. So quick question. So the price, I just had a question about, let me find it here. So under the heading pricing, it says cash price, terms. Is the heading pricing, is this what we actually paid for a lot, or what we actually want to offer for a lot? I guess I'm just, in Investment Dominator, we have like a line where it's like what we think our market value is, and then what we're offering, like offer 1, offer 2, offer 3, and then I don't know if that's like all custom or.
Yeah. So, are we talking about when you're purchasing a property, where you're listing like your closing costs, or whether it's a terms deal?
So all of that. Okay. But initially, when we send out a first offer, I can put in what offer 1 is, offer 2 is, and then what I think that market value really is, because we're only sending
Mhm.
offers at what, 30, 40, 50% of market value, right?
Yep.
So where do we put market value, and does it do any sort of calculations for us? Like,
So if you want to just track that market value, what I would do is create a custom field for that, and you can actually create one that's like a price field, so you can type in that market value there, and then you can use that in your templates if you need to. So when you're generating a document, you can use that, and so you can create those custom fields for everything. You can create like your offer 1 price, your offer 2 price, your offer 3 price. You can reference those in your documents so that they automatically get pre-filled for you.
would we put that under pricing, or is pricing in there specifically for something else?
Are you
So
talking
the
about?
great part about Pebble is it's totally up to you. Like it's we are flexible in that. Yes, you can have your pricing section, but you can structure these fields however you like. And
Okay, so I didn't know if that was supposed to be our market price, because then, it goes into terms and all that good stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, like don't let our fields. So it's a little bit tricky, right? Coming from something like, you guys have a specific way of doing things, and each field means something to you guys. Where with Pebble, it's a little bit open ended. Where if you don't need these fields that says pricing, like just get rid of it. But we've heard from other people from a different school of thought. You needed this, so that can be a little bit misleading, Jody. And I'm assuming you're referring to these property
Yes.
fields here. Just get rid of it. If it doesn't make sense to you, get rid of it for now. You can always bring other fields in. Bring in things that make sense to you. We did not build this, specifically with LPG in mind, so it can be sometimes misleading from time to time.
Can I mention there's one field that's you do seem to treat differently, and that's there is a price field. And so if I take 3 properties in a deal and each one has a price, you'll sum them for one offer.
So the price for a campaign is associated with the campaign, not with the property. The only time you'll ever see that offer price of a campaign lives here. So that it doesn't actually come into a custom field. That's because I can have a property in 3 or 4 different campaigns. I'm mailing them 3-4 times across the year. That price is not associated with the property. That price is associated with the campaign that it belongs to. I could have offered $1,000, $1,500, $20, $2,000, and then $2,500. So that price you're talking about is actually this price here with the campaign. Okay, I can still see it on the property page like here, but it's not an actual custom field. That's the one that we actually do the totaling for.
So that's like a blind campaign.
That's like a blind campaign. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I have a question since we're talking about fields.
Yep.
Is it on your radar to include calculated fields?
Not at this point, but what are you looking to calculate?
Well, it's a little bit of what Jody was talking about, where she's doing things based on market price, and it's a calculation to come up with those numbers.
So right now I'm using Monday.com, and I've created like a custom, almost spreadsheet where I can input what I purchased the property for, what I foresee selling the property for. I can put in Facebook ad 1, Facebook ad 2, how much it costs for photography, how much it costs for, basically it breaks it down per property and gives me a total of my anticipated income or the actual net profit once it's closed. And I can also look at it from a pipeline point of view, where I can see of all of my listed properties, they're all up here. I can see that I have a projected net income, including all my marketing costs and photography and closing costs and all that, of, say 200,000. And I have like maybe 100,000 under contract about to close. It's just a way to keep track of your pipeline, how much each property you're actually netting, not grossing, netting.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes a photographer might cost $500, and sometimes I run out and take a photo myself, and it's zero.
Right. So that calculated number, and then that leads into a question that Dean had earlier, which you might want to sort the most profitable property, so you're hitting that one more often. So if you could have that field available, maybe you could sort in your buckets or in your lists. So just
Yeah,
curious if
so-
that was on your radar, because that would be wonderful to have that available.
Yeah, it's something we'll definitely look into.
These kind of, sorry, I'm going to cut in here with any of these sort of feature requests, get them into them and break them down for, like, Jody, if you've got a video, send that in, right? Show us what that looks like. We're listening. And this is not the best time to sort of get features in, but shoot it to us, get it to us, because Andrea will catch those, we'll document those, and we'll continue to review those and see how we can get that in. But I definitely see the value in that for sure.
And so, Jody, just to address your question about, like, how do I see what a deal is going to net me? We have on your deal board, you can type in what a deal's value is. And so what I do personally is I will type in here, maybe I just had a conversation with this person and they're telling me they want around $5,000. Well, I know, from experience in this county, it's going to cost me $500 for photos, $500 for closing, whatever. Let's say it's another grand on top of what I'm going to offer. I think that I can sell it for 10. So I will put in a deal value here of 4,000. So I think that I can. This is just like ballpark, right? It's just a way for me to, like, see at an overview, what is this deal worth to me. So I'll type in there $4,000. And then on that deal board, I can see that wherever it shows up, I'll be able to see what that deal is gonna be valued. So that's how I sort of surface that information.
Okay, but there's no way to kind of calculate everything in that seller inquiry at the bottom to be like, okay,
That's you doing the calculation, not the system.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm understanding.
Yeah. And that's there's a reason for that, right? We could build a calculation system, but everybody has, like, a totally different process of doing things. So what we found is if we try to build something that's going to do a calculation a specific way, there's going to be half of the people do things a totally different way. So, we would suggest that in this scenario, it's very easy to just have an Excel spreadsheet that runs your personal calculation for something, type those numbers in, copy paste it into Pebble.
So on that note, are we able to export each of these columns individually?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from the property, so you can go to your properties and then you can export. You can select any of them. You can filter them, and then export everything, and all of your fields, everything about that property will be exported.
So you can filter it down by the board, by the stage, hit export and then export that. Okay. This is very similar for you if you wanted to remail as well. So let's say we ran a campaign, let's say we ran this campaign, we want to remail them. Well, we can come into the properties here. We'll filter it down by that campaign. And maybe we want to exclude anybody that is a deal opportunity and remail those people who never gotten back to us. So we hit exclude all, but I'll hit it. And then we'll select them all. And then we'll go create a new campaign from this and then remail them, say, a 10% increase. And Pebble can sort of do that calculation for you guys, like, hey, increase all my offers by 10%. So, and then we'll start mailing them again if we wanted to. Okay, I'm going to keep going on here. We talked about our inbox setup. We talked about communication. We talked about deals versus properties, how deals can exist on multiple boards as well. We talked a little bit about stages. Follow-up, we sort of just touched on it in conversation here, a little bit on follow-up. We have this whole thing of automated follow-ups coming out. If you haven't watched it on YouTube, I think it's our newest video where Kevin and I talk about what's going on with that and the progress with that. So you can stay up to date with that. We are sort of launching a follow-up system, whether it's through text, email, or physical mail, with even increase in an offer that will be coming out. Okay. Last thing I want to go through. well, we kind of did already, which is a properties page. We went through that at the beginning here. I just wanted to stress here, documents. Your documents live in the attach. So this is, if you missed it in the beginning, for those of you guys who joined a little bit late, this properties page is going to show all your property records here. When I pull up this property record, I should be able to see everything I need to know about this property. I should be able to see some of the technical information, some of the events across the timeline here. So you saw if we create an offer, or maybe we've been sending out mailing campaigns to this person 3-4 times across the year. They finally got back to me. They gave me their mail code. I can tell which campaign and what offer. Let's say I'm doing a blind offer each time. I can tell which offer they are talking about. You've got a snazzy map tool here. Yes, it is usable as well. So I can come in here. I can click on parcels. I can see information. I can come in here, get my satellite views. I can come in here and get my 3D maps as well. I can make notes about this property. I can tag my team members here as well inside of the notes. They'll get notified about that. That'll show up in their notifications. Okay. Pebble also serves as a cloud drive. So your attachments here, whether your photos, your documents from the county, documents you generate by hitting generate document, they would all live here. Okay. Images can actually get automatically embedded onto any document as well if you use that document field, the property field. And I'll show you the document editor here in a second. I can see the owner here. I can see the deal boards that it belongs to. Okay, so I can jump into that deal card if I needed to, if it's associated with an actual deal. I can see any integrations and automations. I'm not going to go through automations here, but you can build out automations. If I want to send an email to my photographer of, the coordinates of this property and what page to upload it onto, I just have to hit send and out goes that email. If I wanted to, maybe send a Slack message to my funder about this property and give them a quick summary and a text message and hit send, I can do that. Okay, you can build whatever sort of Zapier automation pulling from this data out however you'd like. Okay, and down on the bottom are those property fields I showed you. So it's important to create those property fields first before you start importing things in. Yeah. Okay. So lastly here, documents. Your document templates live under settings. I can see my personal library of documents here. Okay. If I wanted to go into the master library and grab something, like I can go by hit add template here. Maybe I want this check design. I will add this template to my personal library now, and I can actually start editing on this template. These blue highlights represent dynamic fields. They're typically placeholders here. Or they are placeholders here, sorry. Placeholders can be made up of things like your price words from the campaign, anything associated to the campaign, property fields as well, even the map image of that property, the satellite image, or even images that I've uploaded into the files area, the attachments area. That can get automatically embedded on here as well. So great for things like neighbor letters, right? I want to show off the property and send it to the people living around my property. Once I'm done those changes, I can hit save changes. I can always edit this template at any time, but now it exists in my personal library. Okay. Okay, so we talked about documents, property fields. That wraps up some of the basics here when it comes to using Pebble, and especially for answering some of those questions in regards to ID. I'm going to open up the floor here. Any questions you guys want me, or anything you guys want me to go over again?
Hey, Jesse, I had a question back
Yeah.
in the setup stage.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand like the phone number. Like what
Yeah.
what phone number should I be putting down? Should I just be getting a new phone number from Pebble, or should I be porting over one of my numbers? I didn't know what to put. So that's
Sure. Yeah. So that's going to be, so phone numbers are the things you're probably going to put on your mailers or your marketing material, right? So you can put your own phone number on that mailing, but when they call that number, that will only go to your cell phone number or wherever your phone number is with. If you have a phone number with Pebble, it'll actually ring inside of your Pebble. You can call out of Pebble as well. And so to get the phone numbers, you go to any of the inboxes, you'll go to settings here, and you'll come to the phone number section here, and you can literally hit add phone number. You'll type in an area code, 0210. I'm a Canadian, so excuse me, I don't know all the area codes here. And these are all the available 210 area code phone numbers. I will add this to my account, and now I have this phone number. I can call from here. People can text me here. People can call me here. This phone number is associated with Pebble account. Now, if you have a phone number and you want to keep that phone number, you can also port it into Pebble, but Pebble would then have control over that phone number. Okay, you can always port it out of Pebble, but a system like Pebble can't just tap into like your T-Mobile, or it can't tap into your Open Phone, or it can't tap into your Ring Central. Only one company will own that phone number, and you can only sort of control it and use it from that piece of software or service. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in the case of like Pat Live or Answer First,
yeah,
what phone number do I
would
use?
See, Pat Live owns their phone number. So what that would mean is you would give them your Pat Live number. And so when they call, they'll get Pat Live. That has nothing to do with Pebble. Pebble can't tap into that phone call and listen to the recording. But when they send you that lead, they might use your form to fill out. So you can create a form just for Pat Live here. And so Tracy or Diana, if you can get the article on creating forms, I think, and we also have an article on Pat Live. I sort of explain this process, but you would give them that form, and then they would, every time they pick up, hello, this is so-and-so Lance, whatever, they'll type into that form. That will get submitted. Once Pat Live submits that, it'll come into your inbox. It'll look like something like this, filled out, and then you'll go through the process of creating the deal on the deal board, and then they'll start managing the deal from here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we're okay with our Ring Central numbers? We can port those in?
You should be able to. Legally, I think, right, Kevin? They have to release the number.
Yep. Just contact our support team, and they can walk you through the process of porting that over.
Okay, because all of our texting is associated with them. All right, thank you.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to mention is Pebble does not have a mobile app, right? So Ring Central might. So you have to do everything from either your mobile browser or from the browser here, but your entire team has access to it. Now, this is something that we're looking at very closely on working on a mobile app here. So that is something we're taking quite seriously at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question.
Yep.
I have open phone telephone numbers, and I'm actually right at my 1 year to either renew them or change services.
Yeah.
So I would port those numbers from open phone to Pebble, and then do you guys then operate that phone number and I don't have to pay open phone for it? Is that how that works?
Essentially, right. Yeah. So a lot of people do port over from open phone. Now, I don't know what their process is like. Tracy is our porting expert here. I don't know if she's actually here. Oh, she is, I believe. But yes, it will take some time to port over your number, though. So keep that in mind.
Sure. But I wouldn't renew with open phone and then have
You would
guys...
not, because they're releasing that number, and then we'll catch that number.
Okay,
that number will have nothing to do with open phone anymore.
So is there then an additional charge for having a phone number run through you guys?
No, so every plan has phone numbers included, at least one. On the lowest tier plan, you at least have one included phone number. On the middle tier plan is like 3 included phone numbers. Yeah. So no.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Unless you want a lot of phone numbers, then I think on the middle tier plan, once you're above 3, I think it's like $8 per phone number per month, something like that.
I came in late. I don't know if now is a good time to ask this question or if it was already asked. Did anybody ask about the hosting, robustness and price cross-referencing of any of the features? Did anybody ask that question? Because I know we talked about that a couple days ago.
Hosting in terms of what? Websites?
Well, we were discussing prior to this masterclass, just the price of the hosting. At $60 per site per month. It just seems really on the high side for us. We're kind of like just doing the math on it, going like, if we go to GoDaddy or whatever, it's like $50 a year for one. So we're just kind of curious how you guys got to that number, if there's some sort of added functionality, like what are we really paying for there?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So first of all, our pricing for our website is not just for hosting, right? So anything from nightly backups to 24-hour monitorings to security, that's all taken care of by us. Anything that Google requires, anything that WordPress requires, that is taken care of by us. Now, a lot of times, so when we started as REI Conversion, we were just a website agency. And so a lot of people, we allowed at the beginning to use your own hosting, like GoDaddy and Bluehost. It was like, yeah, it was great. Like, $50 for the year or a little bit more maybe sometimes. But what they didn't realize is they get you in at a low price, and they know statistically around that 6 month to 8 month, 12-month mark, your site will get randomly attacked by these scouring things across the internet, and it is a nightmare to deal with. People are sinking a lot of money to kind of get their sites back. These services will upsell you the wazoo at that point. It works out for them. They know what they're doing. And so upfront, yes, it does seem like a lot. Then we moved over to making sure you get secured hosting only with something like WP Engine. That alone was $30-something per month per site. That did not include any backup, no setup. It's sort of still you have to manage things on your own. So from that standpoint, like, I would be very careful getting into any of those hosts that you mentioned, and look at either hosting through us. And I think it is honestly a really good deal, considering that once you come across one of these situations, and very likely you will be spending a lot more with developers, time, headache. Google has now blacklisted your website, or go and set up a private site on your own. And I don't honestly, if that's the way you want to go to save money, go and do that. But on the way that we sort of monitor and take care of our sites is, we run as a website agency. So it's sort of a hassle-free kind of a solution.
Mm-hmm. It's all about how much you value, your time. Because if you buy one of those, if you buy a GoDaddy site, and I've hosted hundreds of sites on GoDaddy, but as a software developer, I'm making the commitment that every time a plugin breaks when I update something in WordPress, I'm going to have to spend my own time to go in there and fix it. And sometimes that's hours of my time. So, if you value your time and you spend one afternoon of your time fixing your website, you've just bought 6 years of hosting, right? That should be how much you value your time. So, yeah, that's sort of how I look at things now. I will gladly pay anyone to manage my own websites, because I don't want to spend hours of my time fixing stuff.
So I know you might also be referring back to, with Investment Dominator, my sites were included and so on and so forth. what those sites are about, the security and the way that those sites are laid out. Like, I've told people time after time, I literally can go to your selling website and browse over to one of your competitors, and literally have a whole entire shopping list of everybody's selling site inside of Investment Dominator. It's quite easy to do that. Talking about customization, you just don't have that. And I think we all know the site looks like it's something from the 90s. And so it's something to think about. I will tell you, I've been across too many people that we made a huge decision to not allow anybody to host on their own anymore. It was just a nightmare with support. Actually, Pebble might not exist today if we did not decide to do that, because it was just a nightmare in terms of, we were getting blamed for all sorts of sites being down and stuff. So you can certainly manage it yourself or create your own website. Just you wouldn't be using our themes. And I have a feeling you'd end up sending the same in the long run anyways if you're building your own website. So yeah.
Can you speak on more about that? I know that Diana had brought that up, but regarding your websites and what we need to move them over. And I was talking with Alicia. They don't do any of the disposition websites. So yeah, Could you speak on that,
Yeah.
please?
Yes.
Yeah, I did speak about this last time, but there is no sort of, oh, let's export everything from my current website with ID, and it's the copy and paste that says. I would not do it yourself. When we're listing properties inside of Pebble, or sorry, with our websites here, it's you're copying and pasting things, but when you're creating a new listing, it's quite easier filling out a form. I've got a whole video on it. In our success guide, we have this showing you how to list a property onto your website. And moving forward, with some of the, when you're listing future properties, you can click a button inside of Pebble. That'll bring over some of the basic information. You're still going to go into your website and finesse that property, add payment options and whatnot. But yeah, you're literally copy and pasting. There's no sugarcoating for that one. Sorry. But I would just hire somebody to do that for you. I would not waste my time doing that. I mean, I'm sure you could find somebody for a few bucks type of thing.
So let's say in my case, I have one site with Supercharge. So that site is pretty nice, pretty good. So how would I, move that one into Pebble so that when people go and fill out the information there, it goes, in the CRM. And then two, to add the website for, the other side of things for the disposition. How do I do that with you guys?
Okay, so let's answer that first question. You're using a site with Alicia over at Supercharged Offers. Awesome. So you just need to make sure that their form, which I believe it can do so, can shoot out an email when that forms get submitted. That's typical of most forms nowadays, where it can send the email notification. And you want that notification to come in your inbox. So what I would do is come into my inbox here, go to settings here, and there where it says inbox email address, I will tell Alicia, hey, Alicia, anytime somebody fills out my form, can you make sure it sends me that whatever they filled out into this email address so that I get that in my inbox and I can view every form submission inside of here. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. On the disposition side of things, I'm not going to go through the technical workarounds, but you can come into a property here, literally, and then just go to integrations here and hit send to website. That'll create, that'll start the listing for your website on your disposition side of things. You still have to go into your website to add the payment options and all this other stuff, and but it'll get over things like your APN and your legal description and the acreages and whatnot. Okay, I've got a video showing the walkthrough on that. Okay.
Okay.
If somebody can grab that video and throw it in the chat there, please. All right. Any other questions I can help answer here? Yes, go for it. Jody, is that you? Hands up.
Yes. So I went ahead and paid for Pebble for a year because I knew I was going to stick with it. But when I try to go add the website, it's only giving me an option to pay for a website for a full year. Can I just do the website monthly? Just because that's one thing I'm not sure about.
I don't know what the exact procedures are. My team can help you out with that. Like I said, anything billing required. Once you can head to the back corner there and chat with Tracy or Andrea. If we don't have time, shoot us a message. We can figure that out. I don't know exactly what the options are for that.
Okay.
That's more than technical end. Yep.
Question on the website chat. Just for my sake of clarity, if we do use your website templates and pay you to host, when someone goes on either buyer or seller onto our websites, they enter information, this gets automatically populated into the database. Is that correct?
It gets so if somebody came into your acquisition website like this and they filled out the form, does that go into your Pebble account, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, it will come right into your inbox.
Okay. And then so once it goes into the inbox, it starts with the workflow that you just were
Exactly
bringing us through a minute ago. We then attach it to a property.
Yeah. Actually, if they entered in the code, so it'll look like this. I say Julia. I don't know why I keep using Julia today. You're going to crush on me. Julia at gmail.com. Okay. If they came to the step here and actually even entered in the code that we created on that mailer, would actually automatically attach the property for you and everything associated to that mailer. So it even saves you even more time. It'll come into your inbox. Everything will be ready to create a deal. And you'll just hit create deal. And on that deal card, it would have already found the contact and the property for you. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Can you show a disposition website just so I can see? Sorry.
Yeah, you can always come here. Come to features, websites. You can come in and have a look at yourself here.
And the properties like we have on Investment Dominator, it's ready to sell. Does it automatically populate in here, or where are they pulling these listings from?
Where are they pulling that? So these properties exist on your Pebble account. You can push it to your listing website. Your website is sort of a separate entity from Pebble, but there is a little bit of communication where you can push in some of the basic information. You still have to log into the website, add a title, add, your payment options. If you want to type in a description, you're going to type it in here. Although I think you can get some custom fields over into here as well. Again, it's been a while for myself, but we have an article on how to push a property from within Pebble onto here.
But we have to manually enter all the information, correct?
Absolutely.
It's not one of the property cards that.
No, it will have some of the information will come through automatically. Like I said, the county, the acreage, but like things like nearby city attraction, you're gonna have to come in here and type this out.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay.
But for the person who signs up on the buyer side, are they getting automatic emails and like there's a campaign that happens, or what's happening on that end? Do they get notified?
Yeah, so this form, we have something called a property lock here where they'll enter in their email before they can even view the property. That's going to be up to you what you want to do. Do you want to run them through an automation inside of Pebble eventually? Do you want to put them on an email list with MailChimp? You have that availability you have that available to figure out what you'd like to do with that list.
Okay, thank you.
Would we need a third-party email campaign like MailChimp, or is that functionality within Pebble?
No, you'll need a third-party e-newsletter list service to do that.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So something like MailerLite is something I suggest. It's free, and it's actually what I use too. So. All right. Any other questions I can help answer here, guys? Okay. So this video is going to be available for replay for you guys. I'm going to stick this on the Mary Migration page as a replay. I'm assuming all of you guys got Pebble last week with the offer. The $100 will be applied to your account at the end of the billing period. So, on the first day of the next billing period. Next month, mark this on your calendar, the 29th, I am running something called the Dirt Hacker Challenge. You guys might have heard of it before. It's actually completely different. I'm going to spend a lot more time on building processes, on hiring team members, and focused on automations, building out automations through things like Zapier. Okay, automating tasks and making sure you have clarity as to why you need to have processes in place to scale the business. That'll be coming up ahead as well, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this helpful. Watch this again if you guys have any questions. Obviously, we're all here to answer your questions. Other than that, thanks again for joining me and Kevin and the rest of the team here and Andrea for this session here. I hope you guys found this helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question
everyone.
before you go, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Go ahead.
Just curious if you can send a tutorial link to importing. I was late. I'm gonna go refresh.
Yeah,
replay,
you know
but
what?
that's basically where I'm starting because I need to import.
Watch this video because I went through some nuances about importing, like making
Yeah,
sure.
I really appreciate that. But I'm guessing you guys probably have like a standard tutorial.
Yeah, but
specifically
for Investment Dominator, right? I was talking about creating your property fields first and the importance of doing that because there's certain information that you want to bring in that we never have a place inside of Pebble to catch. So you want to create your custom fields or property fields first and then import. Now, if you go to knowledge base here and type in like investment Dominator, I kind of go through that here, and I just talk about creating fields for your property ID. But this replay will be available on the Mary Migration page. So pebble.rei.com/Mary Migration. You'll see this replay on there. I might even end up putting this on YouTube one of these days. But yeah,
I guess see.
Sorry,
on the end of the day. Yeah, go ahead.
On that same note, to bounce off of Hannah's question, I mean, I was watching in the beginning, but I started to try and import a campaign I tried to do it as you were going along.
Yeah.
I have a skipped, traced, and scrubbed list from land callers that they just sent over. And so I went to, I imported it, and then it took me to the matching up the field columns and whatnot. And I immediately got stuck. So just because it says owner full name is your Pebble field. And so, like, when I was looking at I know this is a specific question, but maybe it'll be helpful to people. So then I go over, there was nothing on the right-hand column. So I go over and I see I can choose first name, last name, and then if I scroll all the way down, I saw that there's, let me see, owner, name, like sort of like, and then in parentheses it'll say their last name, comma, first name. Is that what I should be choosing for that? Because owner full name is not how that. Anyway, I think the specifics of like that whole like matching up the field to the column is where I'm getting a little like tripped up because I want to make sure I do it right.
Yeah.
Anyway, is that what you would go down to? Scroll down and put that last name, comma, first name thingy?
Personally, Kevin, you're unmuted. Did you have a suggestion for that?
I would just say that it's we probably want to just whatever the name of the person you're going to be addressing in that on like a mailer or on a document or something, you want that to be the name of the contact.
Right. But I guess my question then is, if I'm scrolling down and choosing that option that's like Mason, comma, like Smith, comma, John, then when I do like mailers, does it like send it like that? Or okay.
So it'll send it like that on the receivers, the envelope part. But in the document, you can choose their first name. You can customize that, but it's just still going to look funny. What I would do then is take the time to create a new column where it combines last name, first name column into a new column. I just drag it right in the ChatGPT and say, take the first name column, last name column, make a new column, please, and spit this out for me. It does it in 20 seconds, and you're ready to go.
Okay. No, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question. I'm so sorry if you need to go. Are we still open for questions?
No, I'm good. Whoever needs to run, you can run. I'm going to be here, so go ahead.
I think this is topic appropriate. It's kind of like a bird's eye question with regards to how this database works. Mm-hmm. So we went through basically creating a property and then attaching it to a person, which I love. That's separate. But then when there's another person to attach, say a buyer, right? So we have a property, we have a seller, and then we also have a buyer. Are they then also attached to a second person in a third pool, which would be a second people pool called buyers?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're talking about the deals here. Like if we look at a deal here, it's made up of a property and the contact. Okay. And if this is on the seller board, so this is where I'm handling all my seller deals. Right. If I am handling buyers, that property that would be a brand new deal here, made up of the property. Let's say we have a property here and an actual contact, somebody who's interested in buying from us. So we would have another, let's just say Tracy is interested in buying this property on my buyer board.
So if I have a property that I'm in the process of acquiring, it doesn't show up on my deal board for buyers unless I have an interested buyer?
That's right. Yeah. So I can, let's say here, I'm clicking into here. I can see that on the deal, on the seller deal, this person's looking to sell me the property, and I can scroll down to deals and see if they also exist inside a buyer, if this property also exists on the buyer board, and who's interested in that property to buy it as well. So I can view it from here. Ultimately, I'm thinking you're saying, hey, when I'm pulling this up, I wanted to be able to see who the seller is and who the potential buyers are. Is that right?
I'm just trying to understand how this is organized. This makes sense.
Yeah.
So when we have a property that we put it on our get contract board, and we go through the steps to get the contract, and when we've gotten the contract, we add it on another board, and we now have the seller and the deal. And as we go through that, we may add a surveyor or a photographer or various other contacts that we are involved in the selling in our marketing board part of
They
it.
have a vendor people bucket too. That's fantastic.
Well, you can add as many contacts as you want.
Yep.
Right? So,
Exactly. Because so a property, if we think of a property and its owner are sort of separate things, right? Once I acquire a property,
the owner changes. Yeah.
Owner is like no longer applicable. Like they're sort of gone. Like I close that deal out. It's now my property. And now I have buyers who are new contacts who are coming in that are also associated with those properties because they're interested in buying them. So we sort of split out the notion of a owner versus a property.
No, you guys hit the nail on the head when you basically created a database where you can separate the property from the person, because it's eventually separated when it sells. That's the whole thing we're doing. We're selling property.
Exactly.
So it makes sense. I'm just trying to understand from a database, bird's eye perspective, how you then link it to the final phase, which is the buyer. So it's a separate deal.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have just a clean list of your deals that are, like, for instance, in escrow?
Yeah, so those would live on your buyer board, or some people call this like my disposition board, or my you can name this whatever you want to, but yes, you would have an escrow stage on that board, so you could look on this board and see all of your properties that are in escrow.
Right. So Jody, I think that would be basically one of the key columns to run the numbers that we've been talking about.
Yep.
All right. I'm tracking. Thank you, guys.
These are really good questions, by the way. They do get me and Kevin thinking quite hard. Any other questions here, guys?
Well, it almost seems, just as a side comment, it almost seems like if you're that the way you are talking about the property implies that we're buying the property first, which I think some of us are simultaneously doing it all. So maybe that's Hannah, speaks to your question of being able to, I don't know, see it all.
Yeah, it's definitely set up as two separate steps for sure. But what confuses me in the buyer database and how it's organized is you basically are going to have a ton of, when you basically have leads come in, you're going to have a ton of people associated to multiple properties. So really, you're only going to get a clean list as they move through under contract and in escrow. So it's going to actually be really hard, and especially if you can't sort each of those individual columns by each individual property, you really actually have no way of knowing unless you sit there. It's actually going to be probably dizzying. If you have, say, 30 properties that you're in the midst of selling and you have 20 interested buyers or 20 phone calls on each one of them, you do the math, you have hundreds of people easily, instantly in one of those columns. And you can't even really pick out which of my properties am I not getting calls on? Which of these properties do not have very many buyers associated with them? And it's confusing to me how you'd even organize that. But
right, especially if we're wanting to track metrics.
Right.
Yeah.
How are you handling that in ID right now?
hiring realtors. No, I'm playing.
Yeah.
To be truthful, I don't handle that in ID. I handle that in a different product, Follow Up Boss.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah, I do it in
I can't-
Monday.com.
As far as I can tell, I can't get rid of it with Pebble yet. And what Hannah's, I think it's Hannah's saying, is that I basically track that until they get a contract. Now they show up on the deal board because there's a whole lot less of them.
Well, what I'm thinking is that's another reason to have a sort in these columns, because you could you could sort by number of contacts or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Or by property. Yeah.
the other thing too is that if you're basically tracking your sales pipeline through the buyer functionality, if you have, let's say, 20 interested people in a property, going back to my same example, and one of them goes under contract, and you basically, like, it falls out of contract, you want to go back to your other 19 people, you actually have a really hard time of finding them just in that list alone. But I guess they're attached to a property, so you could look them up there, right?
Yeah, you would go into the property and be able to see all the associated buyer deals with that property. Yeah.
And then can you, how do you formulate a buyer's list, just generally speaking, like for, if you're working on follow-up marketing to your buyers?
So you're talking about how do you
warm
produce
leads.
a list of buyers?
Sorry, what'd you say, Jesse?
Are you looking to produce a list of buyers?
I'm looking to stay in contact with people that were interested in purchasing a property from me,
Right.
whether they
okay.
did or not.
Yeah. So it depends. How are you collecting those leads, those buyer leads right now?
Currently, I just have a side Google sheet where I collect everyone's information,
Yeah, but
and then
are they coming through your website? Are they calling you?
Yeah, probably any of those things. Texting, calling. They're not really coming through my website, but.
So what I would do personally is I would get it into my first stage here, and as soon as it comes in this stage, we can send an automation that'll just add that contact to like MailerLite or something like the MailChimp or something like that. So then you don't really need to actually do anything as long as it comes into this board. Alternatively, again, if you're using a website with a form, with a different kind of form, you could send an automation to, fire that automatically over to your MailerLite. So there's multiple ways that you could probably go about doing that.
Okay.
And then can you match a buyer with multiple properties or just one?
Yeah.
Yes. You can on any deal you can have as many properties associated with that deal. So if you get somebody in who's interested in 2 or 3 of your properties, I would associate each of those properties with that deal, and then right there what properties they're interested in.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
all right.
You mentioned that from the property, we can see all the deals that are attached to it. So therefore we can get buyers, but can you go from the buyer to see what properties? Doesn't seem like you can, but.
Oh, Kevin.
So from the buyer deal, so remember as a buyer, so first of all, your buyer leads are just like your seller is going to start in your inbox, right? So the inbox is sort of where all my incoming communication comes from. So I'm going through my inbox, reading all my unread submissions, calls, text messages, all that. When I determine from my inbox, okay, this is an actual interested buyer and they're interested in this specific property, I'm going to create a buyer deal at that point. So I'm going to create a deal, put it on my buyer board. And then from there, I can associate one or more properties to that deal. And then at any point I can go view that deal, check out what properties they might be interested in.
Right. But if I work my way, if I say, all right, property A, George was interested in it. Now I'm looking at George's contact information. Is there any way to say what other properties George was interested in?
Yes, they will be, right, Jesse, on the contact page. They're associated, right?
I don't remember if there was a deal thing on there.
If it's so, we are working on some enhancements around the
contacts,
and one of those is to show all the deals that they're associated with.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, certainly when you're saying I want to go see Tracy the buyer, you're going to go to the buyer board, look up Tracy, and Tracy will and that deal will show you all of Tracy's properties that she might be interested in.
Right. If I filter the board to Tracy, then I'm only going to see all of the deals in every stage that is Tracy's involved with.
That's
as long
right.
as she's currently in the title.
Right. As long as she's in the title.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Wait, do you mind just clicking back on that buyer tab real quick, Jesse?
The buyer tab
Please.
here. Oh, the lead.
Oh, sorry. Right here, this screen. So on the right hand side where it says deals and there's a drop down, there's an arrow. Is that not going to display the deals that they're interested in?
Those are the deals associated with that property. Okay. So that property there in Cochise, 049, whatever, that property is associated with these different deals. So I had like a seller deal that was my acquisition part with that's that deal there on the seller board. Then I've got my my subdivide deal where I might be taking through that property through a subdivide process that has its own stages and its own process. So those are all the deals that property is associated with.
So what's happening here as an example, right? I'm still still acquiring the property. It's with the title company. I know I'm going to acquire. I've already started now also tracking this on my subdivide board because I want to actually start the process to subdivide this board. I can be doing two things at once for this property. I don't have to acquire it first and then it goes to a different board. I'm basically doing two things at once at this point now.
I'm tracking. That's cool. So, but basically the answer to Dean's question is no, right?
To be able to see a contact and all the properties they're associated with. To pull up a contact and see all the properties it's associated with.
That is, I don't think it's there right now, because contacts right now they're sort of hidden. They're like in your settings page, and typically people aren't viewing
right.
them.
So the dominant record in the database is the property, even though it's separate from the people. The dominant lookup is through the property.
Yeah.
Right. Now we are going to be making contacts more prominent. We're going to bring that out of settings and we're going to revamp that whole page. That is coming as part of a version 2 that we're releasing next year. And that will include a bunch of basically all the information related to a contact. So all of their deals they're associated with, all of their properties they're linked to would all be on that page. So that'll be there very soon.
Okay. Are you guys going to roll that out at the same time as the app?
No.
The app will come out.
For certain. No.
Okay, fair enough. Cool.
Yeah. So if you want to, again, see what we're up to, right, go to YouTube. Kevin and I live every 3 to 4 weeks. Guys, we got to wrap this up here. Any other last minute questions?
No, thank you for overtime.
Absolutely. All right,
Jody,
guys.
you have your hand raised. Do you? Sorry, not that.
She's
I
had her
just
hand raised
noticed,
since the beginning
and
of time.
Jody always has such good questions.
What was that?
You
Did
just
you
had
have
your
any
hand
questions,
raised.
Oh, no. I mean, I have many, but not for this call anymore.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jesse.
All right. Well,
And Kevin.
thank you so much, guys, for joining us. If you guys have any other questions, shoot us an email. We'll do our best to support you guys. And yeah, we'll go from here. We'll stay in touch, guys. And we always have our live sessions. And we're going to be doing another live event sometime next year for the automated follow-up. So we'll be back in the same virtual space here. So do join us for that. Look out for that. But once again, thank you guys.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
wonderful holiday.
Yeah, happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Great seeing you.